Well,
my friend, because rock had hardly been invented by the 1957 and 58.
Come on,
It was just starting to emerge.
Yes, well,
But we were
one of the first.
we were more the swing jazz bands. We were playing big band stuff.
Yeah, okay, so he's correcting me. I agree.
We were playing Glenn Miller and
Yeah.
Stan Kenton and five pieces trying to play big band music.
Well, we also had a 15-piece band.
That's right. We could expand our numbers if the demand were there.
Yeah,
We were willing to pay the big price to hire us.
We did a Logan High School dance with a 15-piece band.
So if that was a big investment then, because I think we charged about $5 a piece.
Yeah, it was $25 for a church dance.
What other favorite memories do you have of growing up here in Cache Valley?
Oh, I have so many wonderful memories. The first summer that I worked out in the fields, pitching hay. Now, that can be a dirty, sweaty business, but I just spent a week pitching hay, and the next year we had hay bales came in, the mechanisms for baling the hay up. And so then you just had to throw bales around instead of with a pitchfork. So this dates me, that I actually date back to that era. Picking beans,
Right. Picking the beans, topping the sugar beets. That's where you learn what really hard work is. I don't know where kids get that today, but you work your butt off out in these farm fields doing these kinds of things, and I think, at least for me, that's when I decided there's got to be some life that's more a little less arduous than this and can still be a lot of fun.
But there was also a social aspect.
There was.
Friends doing that, but it was not what you wanted to spend your life. That's right. Setting pins in a bowling alley. That's another job I had. And working at Wingett's, which at the time they made, among other things, ice cream bars, and I got to
That
dip
was a plush job.
by hand. I got to dip the ice cream bar into the chocolate and pull it out, cover it with chocolate, and occasionally I would accidentally drop the ice cream bar in, so I had to reach all the way in, pull it out, and then lick it off.
Yeah, that was the plush job. I worked in a grocery store bagging up groceries and putting cans on shelves.
I really enjoyed our band, though, and the debate. Sorry, I'm on the debate squad with Merlin Olson's my partner, and before that, Lynn Crockett, who was, I guess she's left. She's here at the reunion.
Yeah.
And
those were always fun, because just to get ready for the debating the other school teams, we had to go up against each other all the time, and those were real dog fights. You just didn't want to get Merlin too mad. say too many mean things, because he might use muscle instead of brains.
I do remember.
By the way, Merlin was a very, very smart guy.
Yeah, he was really brilliant. In college, my mother finally was allowed to teach, I think, at one point when he was taking a course. She taught an economics class. She wasn't on the regular faculty, but she taught an economics class. She said she was sure he never opened the book, but he always got the best scores on all the exams.
Good.
How does it feel being back here in Cache Valley?
I just love coming back. And so it's just driving into the valley, well, driving up through Dry Lake, and then on down into the valley. It's just sort of warms my heart when I look out and I see this gorgeous valley. And I was remembering riding my bicycle across when I had a crush on a girl who lived in Wellsville, and driving my bicycle, 9 or 10 miles across.
Is that her?
Wellsville. And I remember that I think it was maybe only once or twice I drove that far, but just marveling at how beautiful the valley was while I was riding my bike across.
How did you react when you heard that they were going to name a new boulevard in your honor?
Well, I was more than a bit taken back, and more than a little embarrassed. But it's a huge honor. It's a huge honor. And the one thing that troubles me about it all is that I treasure my relationship with my classmates, and I don't want them to treat me any differently than they ever did. I'm just hoping that that's the case.
So, like, in addition to feeling embarrassed, do you feel proud and accomplished to be one of Logan's first 2 Nobel Prize winners?
Well, I'm proud in the sense that I think it does reflect on Logan as a very special place. And so I'm proud in that sense. I think hope I make clear in the lecture that I feel that in my case, the Nobel Prize was a little out of place because it was the whole team that should have gotten it. But still, I think that it is, I get pleasure out of, in some way, helping people really appreciate what the Logan City Schools have done for me and can do and have done for other people. And in some ways, these 2 Nobel Prizes are an indication of the educational system here.
What would you like to share with students who aspire to do the work that you do?
Love it. If you're going to do it, you need to love it. If you don't love it, find something else that you do love, but that satisfies you in terms of what it may do for humanity. But I think if you're going to spend your life doing something as your principal avocation, it should be something that you really enjoy. If it's possible to find something and make a living at something you enjoy, if you can't make a living at it, okay, well then do it on the side.
During your work on Interstellar, what was it like to use your knowledge to help improve a movie that millions of people would see?
I had enormous fun. So the movie involved a huge amount of brainstorming between me and Christopher Nolan and Jonathan Nolan. Jonathan, or Jonah as we call him, was the screenwriter who wrote the first 3 drafts of the screenplay, and who's become much more famous since then because he created and was the head honcho on Persons of Interest TV series, and more recently he and his wife Lisa Joy, Westworld. But at that time he'd done nothing except write 3 screenplays for his brother, but he was fabulous to work with, and it was a brainstorming process, and that came out as well as it did. I'm really pleased. I'm not terribly surprised because they and everybody who worked on the movie was enthusiastic about and dedicated to making a movie based on real science, with real science embedded deeply in it.
What would you like to say to students who may want to do that as a career field, work as a scientific consultant?
I think it's a very important thing to do. The film has a huge impact on people worldwide. And if you can succeed in embedding real science in a compelling way into film, that can be a tremendous inspiration. I'll give you an example from Interstellar. In Korea, there are 50 million people in Korea. They sold 10 million tickets to Interstellar. It was because the government regards South Korea regards humans as their only really strong natural resource. They don't have minerals, they don't have oil, and so forth. And the technical education of the entire populace is tremendously important to them. And so the government encouraged parents to take their children to this movie. And I went to Korea a few months after the movie came out. They had a special event there at which the first speaker was the President of Korea, second speaker was the Secretary General of the United Nations, and I was the third speaker. It was at that level that the impact of this film had there, very different than anywhere else in the world. But it was really quite remarkable. And and I am told by friends in Korea that it did have a huge impact in terms of inspiring the young people.
What are some of your feelings about knowing how big of an impact that is?
Well, I have a lot of satisfaction about it. Again, like the discovery of gravitational waves, in terms of impact, I put my energy in the right place. But in both cases, also, both things were a huge amount of fun, and I thoroughly enjoyed them. So it has, for me, that double effect of big impact and great joy in doing it.
Is there anything else that you would like to share to readers of this story, or USC students, or people who look up to you as a scientist?
Only that I'm just a regular guy. I had some wisdom about what I chose to do with my life. And it's not that I'm so smart and did it so well, but rather that I put a lot of care into deciding what to do, and then into choosing people to work with who themselves were very, very good. And that having enormous talent is not necessary for having an impact. You can still have an impact by wisely choosing what you work on and wisely choosing who you work with.
Right. Yeah, do you have anything else that you'd like to share?
No, I don't. I'm too tired to think of anything else.
I can guess. Thank you very much for talking with me.
Okay, thank you.